Hello and welcome to the Hellraiser blog. Please guys, if you enjoyed today's blog, hit the subscribe button. We love growing the Hellraiser YouTube family. Okay, today's blog, I was going to do an update on my analysis of Fury versus Wilder, which is coming up. Right, what I needed to do the update was to find the size of the ring, because that's the thing that makes a massive difference to me as to what I think the outcome will be. And I worked on a show on Saturday where I had a box of boxing, and at the same show was Jason McClory and Mervyn Turner, who work as matchmakers for Frank Warren. So I asked them both, right, what is the size of the ring? Really important. How big is it? And they both sort of looked at me almost like blankly, as if it hadn't crossed their mind at all and they didn't know. And I was so disappointed. I was really hoping that they would tell me. But okay, so I still don't know the size of the ring. I hope for Tyson Fury's sake it's a big ring, not a small one, because I think if he gets a small ring, it makes it much more difficult a task for him against Fury, and it favours Wilder massively. If he gets a big ring with a hard, firm underlay, I think that massively favours Tyson Fury, and these are things that surely will be in the contract. There must be, and I mean, presumably the contracts would have been drawn up, which is why I thought people would know it. But so far, no joy. So right, I'm going to look at, because Maravilla Boxeo, who follows my blog for a while now, and he often asks very good questions. And here he asks, will the winner of AJ, will AJ fight the winner of Wilder and Fury? And my answer is in April, and my answer is no. Maravilla Boxeo, but I still think it's a really good question, and I think it's worth investigating the reasons why not, and that's what I'm going to do the blog on today. The reason why, because I spoke to a few people about it in the last couple of weeks, and I've had some really strong opinions about it, and I thought a lot of people don't seem to quite grasp how these fights. They're saying, oh, you know, but Wilder doesn't want it because Wilder got offered $12.5 million, and that's more than he's ever earned before, and therefore he's not interested in the fight. That's absolutely not right, and I'll explain to you why. Yeah, it is the best purse that he'll have had, for sure, but these are the reasons why. Right, boxing today, heavyweight boxing especially, is about pay-per-view. That's where the big bucks are. Outside of pay-per-view, the money is microscopic compared to what it is in pay-per-view. So the money, the fights that everyone is gearing towards is making the pay-per-view fights. And pay-per-view fights are done on percentage. The promoter says, right, you get this percentage, you get this percentage, go and sell it. And that's low risk. In fact, it's almost zero risk to the promoter, because if the fight bombs and it doesn't sell anything, he only has to pay a percentage. If a small amount of money comes in, okay, you get peanuts, you get peanuts. It's your fault for not generating enough interest in the fight. If the fight does really well and is really well promoted by the fighters, they turn up at all the press conferences, they put on a show, they attract a lot of media attention and social media attention, it can then be like a massive mountain of money, and they all get very well paid. So it works better for the promoter to do on percentage. And Wilder would be absolutely, he'd have to be completely out of his mind to take a flat fee, to take $12.5 million, and you can't say that that's a genuine offer. I can't look at that and say, yeah, that's like it's a bit like offering 10 grand to buy a house in London. Oh, well, we offered it, they didn't want it. Well, of course they didn't want it, because let's just put it into context. This is the way I look at it. Right. Tyson versus Lewis was a fight that was allowed to marinate for a long time, to build, attract a lot of interest and attention, and it was at a time where, okay, Tyson and Lewis, in fairness, were bigger names, and it was more anticipated, more hotly anticipated, certainly at the moment, than what Joshua versus Wilder is. But Joshua and Wilder can be developed, and I believe it will be developed over the next 12 months, to then become a big fight. But if you think Tyson versus Lewis, and remember the climate when this fight was made, pay-per-view was much more frowned on than what it is now. It was like a new thing in the UK. People resented paying extra money on top of their subscription and made a bigger fuss about not paying. And people made a point of going to a pub where there was maybe, like, you know, 100 people all watching the one pay-per-view. or going to a mate's house where there'd be like 20 of you and you'd all watch one TV screen. Now people, they pay the money a lot more easily, they just pay it. So the relevance of that is that, just think, when Tyson boxed Lewis, it was said to raise $112 million. $112 million. Now, put that into context of Wilder versus AJ. This fight's going to get built up. They're both world champions. They're going to unify the richest prize in sport. Wilder would have to be absolutely crazy to accept $12.5 million out of a pot of 100 or 100. Look, it was 112, and that fight was in 2002, like nearly 20 years ago. Meaning that today, there's from pay-per-view, there's a lot more sales going to be in there, a lot more money in the pot. Meaning that Wilder hasn't ducked AJ. He absolutely hasn't. He's just refused a completely stupid deal that would be professional suicide for him to take. I mean, look, he's got Shelley Finkel and Al Heyman working with Wilder, and these guys are very experienced. I mean, they're not idiots. They're not guys that are just going to sign the first bit of paper that comes in front of them. I think they'll hold their ground, and I think the thing is that as Wilder is marketed and developed and grows as a fighter, as a commodity, if he beats Fury, and if he doesn't beat Fury, then it's Fury. Fury takes the place of Wilder. But it's one or the other. Whoever wins, they'll come to the table, and they won't be doing it for $12.5 million, because if it's Fury, then you've got Frank Warren and who'll be negotiating on his side, and I think they'll actually end up pretty much on a 50-50 split. And let's just look into as well. I mean, Parker was reported to get somewhere between 30 and 35% of the money's raised when he boxed Joshua. Parker is far less attractive a proposition than what Wilder is. Wilder is, and if Fury beats Wilder, then Fury will be much more attractive than what Parker was. So if Parker got 30 to 35%, well, why would Wilder be happy to walk off with like 12.5 million flat fee? That's insulting. That's like treating them like divvies, like morons. They definitely wouldn't. There's no way. And I think, I mean, I've actually heard people saying, "Oh, well, do you know what, Wilder, or the winner of Wilder versus Fury against AJ, that's going to be like the Tyson Lewis of our generation." Well, if it is, then you've got to think, okay, the purse that it will raise will be over 112 million, because that was 20 years ago. You're probably looking more like 200, 250 million. So why would you accept 12.5 million out of a possible? I mean, it doesn't make sense. So I actually think it will go for a 50-50. I think Wilder and Fury can box. They may even, I wouldn't be at all surprised they end up boxing twice. That gives those two the chance to develop and be mediatised. And if it's a rubbish fight, or one of them wipes the floor with the other one, then we'll bring someone else in, and that will help snowball the fight. And when we actually see it, I think probably back end of 2019 at the earliest. But they'll both get very well paid. I think it's a 50-50 split. I think it's a fight that could potentially happen in the UK, because we know of the sales that AJ makes, like fills up Wembley Stadium, and I think it could actually end up being the highest earning heavyweight title fight of all time. We'll see. Guys, thank you for watching the Hellraiser blog. If you've enjoyed or found interesting the blog today, please don't hesitate to hit the subscribe button, and I'll be back on here very shortly with more blogs for you. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.